Did you know that Max Verstappen not only won in Azerbaijan, but also achieved a perfect Grand Slam with a consistency never seen before in Baku? The surprising thing is that the telemetry data reveals a hidden secret in the RB21 setup that explains why he dominated from start to finish. Before continuing, tell me in the comments, do you think this Verstappen is unstoppable on the way to the championship? The key question is, what did Red Bull discover in their car that changed everything? Stay until the end, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. In this video, we'll break down the data, strategy, and technical improvements that explain how Verstappen became the absolute master of the 2025 Azerbaijan Grand Prix, making it clear that Red Bull is back in the fight. Max Verstappen's victory in the 2025 Azerbaijan Grand Prix cannot be understood as an isolated result or a fluke. It comes at a key moment in the season, after several weekends where Red Bull seemed to have lost its technical and strategic bearings. For much of the year, the RB21 displayed inconsistent performance. There were races where it shined and others where it became a difficult car to control, with a setup window that was too narrow. This context made performance unpredictable, and the team lived under constant pressure to find answers. In Baku, however, everything fell into place in a surprising way. Verstappen not only took pole position, but dominated all 51 laps with a superiority reminiscent of his best moments in past seasons. That result meant much more than a simple victory. It was confirmation that Red Bull had finally found the key to correctly interpreting the RB21's potential. The initial context for this triumph lies in this technical transformation and the team's ability to regain confidence after months of doubt and questioning. The most striking thing was that, unlike other Grand Prix, this time Verstappen had a car that performed consistently on every lap. Most importantly, the telemetry data showed a quantum leap compared to previous weekends. There was no need for extreme adjustments from one day to the next, nor last-minute improvisations. The car responded solidly in both qualifying pace and race management, and that allowed Max to focus solely on squeezing his talent to the maximum. He hadn't had that feeling of absolute control for a long time, and it was the foundation upon which he built a dominance that culminated in a perfect Grand Slam, pole, leading every lap and setting the fastest lap. The telemetry data from the 2025 Azerbaijan Grand Prix was the true reflection that showed why Max Verstappen dominated from start to finish. It wasn't just his driving ability, but a precise combination of his driving style and the technical decisions Red Bull implemented on the RB21. The numbers reveal that the Dutchman managed to gain an advantage in the most decisive sections of the track, where the difference isn't always visible to the naked eye but sets the course for the entire race. In the first sector, Verstappen achieved a superior top speed, a result not only of the engine but also of the specific aerodynamic setup Red Bull chose for Baku. The RB21 reached 329 km per hour before turn 1, and that speed translated into a cumulative time that left rivals like Carlos Sainz and Oscar Piastri behind. The key was the way Red Bull sacrificed some downforce in slow corners to maximize efficiency on the straights, a move that only works if the driver is able to maintain stability under heavy braking, and Verstappen did so with a confidence that was reflected in every lap. In the third sector, the longest and most demanding in terms of constant speed, the gap widened even further. The records show that Verstappen was able to maintain a smooth pace without tire lockup in the area of the 90-degree corners. There, work on the suspension and differential was crucial. With high lockup under braking and low lockup under acceleration, the car responded with perfect balance, allowing it to exit each corner with more traction than the rest. This, combined with the stability offered by the improved surface introduced at Monza, made the RB21 practically unbeatable in these critical areas. Another revealing statistic was tire management. Despite the changing temperatures and the wind that complicated corner entry, Verstappen managed to maintain the performance of his compounds with minimal degradation. The clean air, leading from the start, allowed him to control the pace, but what made the difference was the car's ability to consistently maintain downforce. This consistency gave him room to push when needed, and it was during these fast laps that he managed to definitively distance himself from his pursuers. These results demonstrate that the victory wasn't a product of chance or a simple speed boost. It was the reflection of a car that, for the first time in a long time, responded precisely to what Verstappen demanded, and of a driver who knew how to push it to the limit without making mistakes. The victory in Azerbaijan was also a clear example of how Red Bull and Verstappen managed to mend a relationship that had been marked by frustration. During the first months of the season, the Dutchman found himself with an unpredictable car that forced him to work twice as hard to remain competitive. The constant setup variations and lack of clarity regarding the technical direction wore down the driver and the team. However, in Baku, we saw a very different side, a much more confident Verstappen and a team that seemed to have regained control of its destiny. Verstappen's role was fundamental because he was able to clearly communicate what he needed from the car. It was no longer a matter of demanding indiscriminate improvements, but rather guiding the team toward a more logical path in its decisions. His subsequent statements were revealing. He admitted that until recently they had been testing extreme changes without a clear direction, and that the arrival of a more engineering-based approach had made the difference. This shows that the driver not only depends on what he's given, but also has the ability to steer the team in the right direction. On the other hand, Red Bull, under the new management of Laurent Mekies, radically changed its way of working. The team stopped acting on impulse and adopted a more organized approach, with clear protocols and data-driven analysis. This transformation was key to giving Verstappen a more predictable car and, above all, restoring his lost confidence. The decision to risk an aggressive aerodynamic setup in Baku is an example of how the team returned to taking calculated risks instead of desperate improvisations. The understanding between driver and team was reflected on the track. While Verstappen squeezed every sector with surgical precision, Red Bull managed the strategy impeccably, making no mistakes in the pits and confident that they had found the right path. That synergy, which seemed lost at the start of the season, returned at just the right time to revitalize their aspirations. Verstappen's victory in Baku not only meant scoring valuable points, but also had an immediate impact on several fronts that go far beyond the standings. The first was the confidence boost. After weeks in which the team seemed disoriented and without a clear direction, this victory became a resounding sign that Red Bull had regained technical and strategic control. The result acted as a psychological relief that restored the team's conviction that they could still compete at the highest level in 2025. Another crucial aspect was the way this victory repositioned Verstappen in the championship narrative. He went from being seen as a driver struggling with a problematic car to regaining the image of a champion capable of dominating with authority. This perception is no small detail, because in Formula One, the psychology of competition is as influential as on-track performance. Rivals now know that Verstappen has regained a powerful weapon, absolute confidence in his machine and his team. The consequences were also felt within the paddock itself. McLaren, which seemed to have the absolute initiative with Piastri and Norris, was forced to acknowledge that dominance is not assured. Red Bull's victory in Azerbaijan was a direct warning. The fight for the championship is still open, and any mistake by its rivals can be immediately exploited by Verstappen. This added pressure can influence the strategic decisions of competing teams in the upcoming races. Furthermore, internally, this result consolidated Laurent Mekies' position as the leader of the project. His methodical and calculated style was validated with a landslide victory, reinforcing his authority within the team and giving him room to continue implementing structural changes. Red Bull found in him the figure capable of transforming frustration into a plan with immediate results. The Azerbaijan Grand Prix left a clear lesson. Verstappen's victory wasn't a one-off, but confirmation that Red Bull has cracked the secret to restoring the RB21's lost competitiveness. Telemetry data show that the straight-line speed, stability under braking, and traction in the corners were the result of meticulous work and technical management completely different from what we saw in the first months of the season. This internal change gave Verstappen the tools he needed to unleash his full talent and achieve absolute dominance. The impact of this victory is far greater than the points tally reflects. It marked a turning point for Red Bull, a message to its rivals, and a warning to the championship. What had seemed like a downhill season was transformed into a new opportunity to fight. Verstappen himself cautiously acknowledged this in his statements. The car now allows him to attack, adjust, and compete with greater confidence, although he knows that upcoming circuits will test whether this momentum can be sustained on more difficult terrain. The truth is that, With 2 consecutive victories and a clear resurgence, Verstappen is once again at the center of attention. His performance in Baku was a demonstration of authority that rekindled enthusiasm within the team and, at the same time, introduced a factor of pressure for McLaren, which can no longer afford to make mistakes. The championship, far from being decided, is entering a phase where every detail can change the course. Now I want to know your opinion. Do you think Verstappen has what it takes to turn the championship around and catch Piastri, or will this Red Bull resurgence be just a mirage on favorable circuits? Leave me your opinion in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel.